When you hear a phrase like, the boy who lived, your brain probably just goes on autopilot.
Oh, absolutely. I
Yeah.
mean, it's completely baked into the culture at this point.
Yeah, exactly. If you grew up anywhere near pop culture in the last couple of decades, you already have the images locked in. You see that, very specific lightning bolt scar. You hear that sparkling, whimsical music.
Jurgen Williams, yeah.
The classic John Williams
Yeah.
score. And you just feel this overwhelming sense of childhood nostalgia. It is incredibly hard to look at something that universally recognized with fresh eyes.
It's almost impossible, really. We're talking about a story that has been cemented into the global consciousness in one very particular visual and auditory style since, 2001?
Yep, since the first films hit theaters. But welcome to the deep dive, because today we are taking you into a brand new iteration of a world you only thought you knew inside and out.
And it is a completely different beast.
It really is. Our mission today is unpacking the first trailer for the highly anticipated HBO series adaptation of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. And I want to set the stakes right now for you. If you go into this 8-episode season, which is slated for this Christmas, expecting a remastered version of the movies, you are going to get metaphorical whiplash.
Oh, major whiplash. Because the showrunners are attempting something radically different. They aren't trying to recreate the movie at all. They're trying to faithfully adapt the 1997 novel.
And the tonal shift is just immediate. I mean, you don't even need to look at the screen to feel it.
You really don't. It's all in the audio.
Honestly, it caught me completely off guard. You hit play on the trailer, and instead of that instantly recognizable music, which practically screams magic and wonder, you are hit with this brooding, mystifying Hans Zimmer score.
Yeah, that Zimmer bass just hits you right in the chest.
Right. It's heavy. It's super atmospheric. I found myself sitting up a little straighter, just feeling this, sense of underlying dread.
Well, which is exactly the psychological state they want you in. By swapping out the whimsy for Zimmer's signature tension, they're forcing you to acknowledge the grounded, emotional reality of the protagonist.
Yeah, taking off the rose-colored glasses.
Exactly. Before he's a wizard, before he's a savior, he is an abused, deeply neglected child trapped in suburban England. The music strips away that sparkly, magical veneer and basically says, look at the reality of this kid's life first.
And the reality of that life brings us to the first massive shift we need to talk about, the Dursley household. Now, in the earlier movies, the setting always felt weirdly timeless to me. Like you couldn't quite pin down the era.
It was very non-specific contemporary, yeah.
But this HBO series is aggressively period accurate to 1991. Which is the exact year the first book takes place.
You see it in all the mundane details, too. The early 90s haircuts, the oversized, clunky glasses, the specific, drabness of the suburban clothes. It shows a really strict dedication to the original timeline.
Yeah, but beyond the clothes, I have to admit I was a little puzzled by one of the focal points of the trailer.
The haircut scene.
Yes. There's this intense scene of Aunt Petunia, who is played by Belle Polly here, aggressively cutting young Harry's unwieldy hair with these massive kitchen scissors.
And Harry is played by Dominic McLaughlin in this iteration, right?
Right, Dominic McLaughlin. And through a bit of accidental magic, the hair just grows right back into a tangled mess immediately. I mean, we're talking about a super expensive fantasy show trailer, and they spend precious seconds on a bad haircut in a cramped cupboard. I have to ask, does a haircut really matter that much to the broader story?
It absolutely does. But you have to look at the thematic influence underneath the scene. The series is leaning heavily into a tone reminiscent of Roald Dahl.
Oh, interesting. Like shining a really harsh, unflinching light on how cruel adults can be to forgotten children.
Precisely. In the previous adaptations, the Dursleys often came across as loud, almost cartoonish buffoons. There were comic relief in their cruelty.
Yeah, lots of yelling and turning purple.
Right. But here, the cruelty is quiet. It's systemic, and it's deeply psychological. Petunia insisting that Harry is not special as she hacks at his hair isn't just a generic wicked stepmother trope. It's an active suppression of his identity.
Okay, wow. I see that. It's very much about control.
It's about control, but it's also about her own trauma. Petunia is projecting her lingering, bitter resentment. She grew up hating that her sister Lily was a witch. She felt ordinary, left behind.
So she's taking it out on the kid.
Exactly. She is taking all the vitriol she wishes she could have unleashed on her sister and projecting it onto this defenseless infant nephew. And because the current showrunners already know the ending of the massive 7-book saga...
Which is a luxury the original filmmakers definitely didn't have back in 2001.
Exactly. They can leave that deep-seated, complex family family trauma into the narrative right from episode 1.
That makes a lot of sense, especially when you look at the cinematography. There's this incredible tight close-up of Petunia's eyes in the trailer. They are just brimming with this desperate spite. And then the shot transitions seamlessly to match Harry's eyes. It's like impossible to miss.
And if you're a longtime follower of this world, you know that visual match is doing some major heavy narrative lifting.
Huge. Anyone familiar with the lore knows that Lily's eyes are crucial. They represent the love charm she placed on Harry through her sacrifice, which is the exact mechanism that caused the killing curse to rebound.
It's the core of the whole magic system, really.
Right. So setting up that visual triangle between Petunia, Lily, and Harry this early is brilliant. It grounds the eventual magic in very real, very human family history.
Which tells us a lot about the pacing of the show, too. They are rooting the story in character psychology rather than rushing to the fireworks. If you break down the footage in this trailer, almost all of it seems to be pulled from just the first 2 episodes of the season.
Wait, really? Just the first 2? A Christmas release, a massive HBO budget, and we might not even see Hogwarts until episode 3. I mean, I have to push back on that a bit. Isn't a slow burn like that incredibly risky for a modern audience that expects instant gratification?
Oh, it is a risk, undoubtedly. But it's a calculated one. The show is clearly taking its time to let the early chapters breathe.
I guess so. We do see scenes of the letters arriving, and Uncle Vernon fleeing with the family to that miserable sea shack in a desperate bid to escape the magical mail.
Exactly. They want you to feel the suffocation of Harry's normal life so that the escape actually means something.
Okay, I can buy that. Because if the early life is a suffocating slow burn, the payoff of finally finding connection is going to hit you like a freight train. And the trailer highlights this contrast beautifully during the sequence at King's Cross Station.
Oh, that entire train station sequence is a total masterclass in visual storytelling.
First off, we get a shot of Nick Frost looking spot on as Hagrid riding the London Tube with Harry, which is just fantastic to see realized so accurately. But the real emotional gut punch comes just after that.
When he's on the train.
Yes. Harry is entirely alone on the Hogwarts Express. He's got his footlocker, he's got his owl, and he's just staring out the window at the platform. And he watches the Weasley family. He specifically watches Molly Weasley, played by Catherine Parkinson, pull Ron, who's played by Alistair Stout, into this massive, warm, protective hug.
It's such a poignant moment.
It really is. And layered right over Harry's face in the reflection of the train window, we see a young Ginny Weasley, played by Gracie Cochran, standing on the platform.
It's such a layered image because on the surface, yeah, pairing Harry and Ginny visually this early is a great nod to the endgame of the series for the fans. But let's dig into the why. Why emphasize this specific moment of a mother hugging her son?
Well, because Harry has absolutely zero memory of a mother figure ever doing that for him. The source material explicitly points out how deeply envious Harry is of Ron in this exact moment.
Exactly. It synthesizes his entire motivation. By lingering on Molly's hug, the series tells you that Harry isn't just some plucky hero looking for a grand adventure to defeat a Dark Lord.
Right, he's just a lonely kid.
He is a traumatized kid, fundamentally longing for the maternal affection that the Weasley family represents. His entire journey is a search for a family.
That reframes the whole story for me, honestly. It makes the stakes feel so much more intimate. But of course, he does eventually get to the castle, and once we transition to Hogwarts in the trailer, you realize how the extended real estate of an HBO series allows them to blow the doors wide open on the world building.
Oh yeah, they have so much more runtime to play with now.
We are finally getting the restored lore, the deep cuts that the movies simply didn't have the time to explore.
The B-sides of the source material, essentially.
Exactly. It's like the movies gave us the greatest hits album, but this HBO series is giving us the B-sides, the acoustic tracks, and the studio outtakes that true fans have been begging for.
Let's talk about those outtakes. What caught your eye first?
Well, let's look at the castle architecture. We get a sweeping shot of the grand staircases, and they are wildly confusing and disorienting. But here's the kicker. They aren't moving.
Which is going to surprise a lot of casual viewers.
It totally will, because the moving staircases are so iconic. But those were actually an invention of the 2001 film. The books describe them as chaotic, leading to different places on a Friday with vanishing steps.
And the series seems to be leaning right into that chaotic nature.
Yeah, there is literally a massive ancient tree trunk growing right through the middle of the entrance hall.
It makes the environment feel less like a whimsical funhouse and more like a wild, unpredictable, genuinely dangerous, ancient Scottish castle.
Definitely. And that unpredictability extends to the daily life at the school, too. What stood out to you as the biggest lore restoration?
Oh, the Sorting Hat, without a doubt. We get a quick glimpse of it, and it isn't just going to sit there and shout out a house name. In this adaptation, the hat actually sings.
Which completely changes its function in the story.
How so? Because in the books, I always just thought of it as a fun, kind of quirky tradition. It is a tradition, but mechanically the songs serve as a narrative mystery box. In the novels, the Sorting Hat sings cryptic, prophetic songs that foretell the specific threats and political challenges the character is going to face that upcoming year.
Oh, wow, so it's setting the stage.
Exactly. By reinstating the songs, the showrunners are giving themselves a built-in device to establish the season's overarching mystery right in the premiere.
I never thought of it that way.
Yeah.
It's basically a roadmap for the audience.
Yeah.
And speaking of mysteries, the trailer also gives us a shot of a very specific classroom with ancient art displayed on the walls, which heavily implies we are getting the history of magic class.
Taught by Professor Binns, played by Richard Dormer, who is notably a literal ghost.
Right. And this isn't just a fun visual gag. The inclusion of Binns signals something massive about how this show will operate.
Because of how ghosts function in the books.
Exactly. In the earlier films, the ghosts were mostly transparent, set dressing floating in the background. But in the source material, the ghosts of Hogwarts, including Peeves the Poltergeist, are integral, active participants in the castle.
This is a crucial distinction. If you treat ghosts as actual historical figures who have lived in this castle for centuries, they become active agents. When Harry and his friends need to solve a mystery, they have to interrogate the ghosts.
That is so cool.
Right. The ghosts hold clues, they have biases, they have agendas. It shifts the genre slightly away from pure fantasy adventure and roots it more deeply into a gothic detective story.
It just makes the world feel so much more lived in. Oh, and I have to mention the Quidditch footage because I almost cheered. The trailer shows a wide shot of a Quidditch pitch completely covered in snow. It's Gryffindor versus Hufflepuff.
A match that was entirely cut from the first movie adaptation.
Completely cut. And it's such a wild sequence in the book. Severus Snape actively referees the match to try and protect Harry. George Weasley intentionally hits Snape with a bludger and incurs a penalty.
Classic George.
Right. And the whole thing ends with Harry catching the snitch in barely 5 minutes. The fact that they are including this specific chaotic match proves they are dedicated to giving fans the complete, unedited album.
And by giving you the complete album, they are meticulously laying down tracks that won't pay off for over a decade. The ripple effects of the granular details established in this trailer will dictate the logic of all 7 planned seasons.
Oh, you're talking about the wand lore, aren't you?
I am. The trailer is remarkably precise about this. We see Garrick Ollivander, played by Anton Lesser, hand Harry his famous 11-inch holly wand with the phoenix feather core.
Which we all expected. But then, right after that, there is a blink-and-you-miss-it shot of a young Draco Malfoy, played by Lox Pratt. He's flanked by his usual cronies, and he's holding his wand.
And our source material highlights this specifically. It is a 10-inch hawthorn wand with a unicorn hair core.
I mean, I know wands matter, but why is showing Draco's specific wand in the very first trailer such a big deal?
Because it is the ultimate long game.
Right.
For anyone familiar with the climax of the final book, showing Draco's exact wand now is a masterstroke of foreshadowing.
Wait, Hawthorne? How does that tie in?
By the time we reach the events of the Half-Blood Prince and the Deathly Hallows, that specific Hawthorn wand becomes the absolute linchpin of the Elder Wand's succession logic. It is the complex, almost bureaucratic technicality of wand ownership that ultimately allows Harry to defeat Voldemort.
Wow. Are you serious?
Completely. Establishing its visual identity in Season 1 is the showrunners making a promise to the audience. They are saying, we understand the mechanics of the ending, and the puzzle pieces are already in play on the board.
That level of pre-planning is just staggering. But, pre-planning a 7-season arc also means you have to lock in casting choices right now that will have massive narrative implications years down the line.
Which brings us to the discourse surrounding the casting of Severus Snape.
Yeah. In the trailer, we get a brief shot of Snape using the Lumos spell, likely searching for Harry in the castle corridors. Snape is being played by Paapa Essiedu, who is a phenomenal, highly acclaimed black actor.
Oh, he brings an incredible gravitas to his roles.
He absolutely does. But, as our research notes, this casting choice has sparked a lot of complex discourse regarding the narrative we know is coming in seasons 3, 4, and 5.
The Marauders' backstory.
Exactly. Later in the story, we explore the backstory of the Marauders. We learn that Harry's white father, James Potter, along with Sirius Black and Remus Lupin, mercilessly bullied and humiliated Snape when they were teenagers at school.
It's a very dark part of James's past.
It is. So, I have to play devil's advocate here. If the Marauders are all cast as white actors and Snape is black, doesn't that fundamentally alter the optics of that bullying dynamic for a modern audience?
It undeniably alters the optics, and it presents a significant narrative challenge for the writers. Impartially speaking, the showrunners will have to navigate this incredibly carefully.
Because it changes the theme.
Well, thematically, Harry discovering that his idealized hero father was actually an arrogant bully is vital character development. It shatters Harry's black and white worldview and forces him to see the profound flaws in the people he idolizes.
Right, but you don't want a scene of 3 privileged white kids tormenting an isolated black kid to be read purely as a racially motivated hate crime, especially when the original narrative intent was about teenage arrogance, jealousy, and schoolyard rivalry.
Exactly. HBO likely doesn't want to accidentally imply James Potter was racially motivated. It adds a fascinating layer of complexity to the adaptation process for seasons 3 through 5.
It really does.
How do they handle that backstory? Do they alter the specific nature of the bullying to ensure the thematic focus remains on James's arrogance? It is a prime example of how translating a text from 1997 into a visual medium for a 2026 audience requires constant, thoughtful recalibration.
And speaking of having to carefully recalibrate how we engage with this property, we cannot do a deep dive on this universe without addressing the very real, ongoing reality of its creator.
No, we can't ignore it.
There is immense controversy surrounding J.K. Rowling's public statements regarding trans people. It is a massive point of tension for the audience, the crew, and the industry at large.
It is a reality that every single person involved in this production, and every viewer tuning in, has to grapple with in their own way.
Yeah. Our sources highlighted how the cast is handling this pressure, specifically pointing to John Lithgow, who has taken on the monumental role of Albus Dumbledore.
What did he have to say about it?
Well, Lithgow addressed the controversy head-on. He stated that he finds Rowling's views, quoting him directly here, ironic and inexplicable. He was very candid, admitting that the decision to take the role was hard and made him uncomfortable because of the intense public pressure to walk away.
Yet he made the deliberate choice to stay.
He did. And his reasoning offers a really interesting perspective on how to engage with the text. He noted that he made his decision based strictly on the source material itself.
Sticking to the canon.
Exactly.
Uh-huh.
He stated that within the Potter canon, he sees no trace of transphobic sensitivity. Instead, he views the original work as a meditation of kindness and acceptance.
Which presents the audience with a profound metatextual challenge. It requires you to hold multiple, often completely conflicting truths in your head at the exact same time.
The cognitive dissonance.
Exactly. It asks the question, can you fundamentally disagree with the real-world actions of an author while simultaneously recognizing and extracting the inherent themes of empathy and kindness in the art they created decades ago?
There is no easy answer to that.
No, there isn't. It is a tension that every viewer is going to have to reconcile for themselves before they hit play on episode 1.
It's a heavy thing to carry into a story that is, ostensibly, about magic and flying broomsticks. But then again, maybe it's perfectly fitting for a series that is, at its very core, about confronting darkness and navigating the messy reality of the adult world.
I think that's a very fair assessment.
So if we synthesize everything we've unpacked today from this trailer, we are looking at a brand new iteration of Hogwarts that is laser-focused on the emotional trauma of its protagonist.
Strictly adhering to a 1991 timeline.
Yes, and relying on a deeply atmospheric score while meticulously laying the mechanical groundwork from Aunt Petunia's jealousy to the core of Draco's wand for a massive 7-season architectural arc.
It is a story, being built with tools you haven't seen them use before. Which leaves you with a really fascinating final thought to mull over as we wait for the premiere.
Oh, I love these. Lay it on me.
If the showrunners are aggressively dropping these visual hints in the very first teaser, how will your own knowledge of the ending change the way you experience the beginning? When you sit down to watch a mystery where you already know exactly who the culprit is and exactly how they get caught, do you stop looking at the clues? Or do you start judging the sheer brilliance of how the trap was set?
Oh, wow. Are we watching the story unfold, or are we watching the trap being set?
Oh.
That completely changes how I'm going to watch the pilot. Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Take that question with you, think about how you consume the stories you already know, and we'll be right back here next time to unpack whatever comes next. Until then, stay curious. Goodbye.